Get a £5 free bet every week with Offer Club from William Hill. Simply stake a total of £20 or more across the week on pre-match football accumulators with 4 or more selections, and you'll get a £5 free bet on the Friday. Join William Hill Offer Club on mobile or online now.
James Helder, IFL TV, in association with Matt Clean's Jim Marbella. With me, I've got the main man from Boxing News, underneath the editor and vice editor.
Sort of main minion.
Main minion.
News,
you get the drift. None other than John Dennen. How are you, John? How are you, mate? You okay?
I'm good, very good. How's everything going with you?
Good, yeah, very well. Bit anticlimactic, the press conference. How would you sort of assess today?
Yeah, I suppose we have seen both boxers involved in pretty exciting or controversial press conferences in the past.
What moments would you pick out as being controversial and exciting?
Well, Derek Chisora went on his weigh-in rampage in Germany, which was dramatic to say the least. He has his notorious fist fight with David Haye at a press conference.
Was that when both got tripoded?
That's where he got tried. I was actually there for that. I ran around to get a good look, and then as tripods were flying, I thought I'd made a terrible mistake here. I didn't even know what to think. So yeah, it didn't. If those are the highs we're after, it didn't achieve those highs. But you know what? I'm not disappointed.
You're not holding that against them, are you?
No, I don't think, we need there to be good fights in the ring. We don't need, arguably Derek left it all at the weigh-in for the Pulev fight. The Pulev fight wasn't as ferocious as we expected. So I think, we want to live in a world where fights are made on their own merits rather than the sort of, social media beef between the two participants.
Was it coincidence that there wasn't any water bottles on the table today, or do you think that was a strategic move to keep water and bottles away from each of the fighters?
I think it was just erring on the safe side. I think it was noticed beforehand that there were no bottles, no glasses close at hand, and Derek asked for a drink of water during the press conference itself.
Did you hear the room gulp when he asked for a drink of water?
I was hiding a coffee cup under my chair, so I couldn't be summoned. Because David Haye was holding a bottle when he struck Derek in their press conference
iconic moment in Germany, yeah.
Iconic is one way of describing it, yeah. I think I've got to say, we at Boxing News take a dim view of these extracurricular things, but as the Boxing News online web editor, you do get hits out of this kind of stuff.
I can say at IFL TV, we actually love the beef and drama. We encourage it. It's what we like. Let's talk a little bit about the fight then. Stylistically, do you think Chisora White's styles will gel, or do you see it being a cagey affair? Do you see it being up close? What sort of fight do you anticipate?
I don't see it being cagey. I think it's going to be more a question of how accurate the two are. So it could, it could get messy. They could get tied up with one another. I was surprised that Pulev beat Derek so convincingly. I thought Derek would be able to pressurise him more. A couple of years ago, Derek went on a really good run and looked good when he was going up and winning the European title.
So he went to Fort Hellenius, for instance, on that sort of period.
Yeah, and also when he was coming back from a loss and he was boxing at the Copper Box. But he was fighting energetically, not huge single punches, but he was applying pressure.
Win, for instance.
During that run, yeah. And we didn't see him quite, so his form's not quite where it was. But then, and Dylan seems to be, he's the British heavyweight champion. He seems to be the coming guy, and he's got power. So with two big guys going at it, it's always worth watching. So it could gel and be an absolute war. It could be a messy, scrappy, clumsy affair if the styles don't mesh that way.
Let's talk a little bit about Anthony Joshua and Molina. What was your initial response when the Anthony Joshua versus Molina fight was announced?
Well, I wasn't buzzing like a jar of wasps. It was, especially as we all hoped, and from what I really thought, we were going to get Joshua Klitschko on December 10th. Anyone's going to be a letdown from that. Molina's not the kind of fighter who gets the gets your blood pumping because he's just, you're going to expect Joshua to win that, and how big a puncher is Eric Molina. He got a good win over Adelanek to get himself this fight, but he has lost Deontay Wilder inside the distance, and he has lost to Arreola in the distant past. But in boxing terms, I think being reasonably competitive for a few rounds with Deontay Wilder and beating Adelanek in Poland, that sort of earned him this fight. So I can see why he's the opponent, but then it might be a hard sell, especially on pay-per-view.
I know social media sort of is a driving force at the moment, but is it a factor that Molina isn't that big on social media, that people may not be aware of him in this country? The fact that he hasn't got the massive profile that other pay-per-view fighters have had in the past.
Yeah, and also I wonder if he's not like a big character. So the build-up isn't going to have a great story. In the Joshua Klitschko, it's a great story because it's the old champion against the new champion. And then when you have Joshua DILLIAN WHYTE, it's a great story because they've got this, ancient grudge. And even someone like Brian Jennings, who's, an abrasive character and a big talker, that build-up would become compelling. And Molina seems like a humble guy. I believe he's a teacher. He's not gonna. It's gonna be a hard sell, I think.
Talk to me a little bit about Jose Bertev, Frank Buglioni. Now, you, as much as we at Boxing News and IFL TV, we love these sort of fights. It's the fact that it's been made and it's a great British fight. What are your thoughts on that? It
is. You were actually speaking to someone who was ringside for Jose Bert and Frank Buglioni 1, which took place in the amateurs at the School Sports Centre in Dagenham. It was a box-off to get to the GB Championships. It was 3 rounds. It was actually a brilliant 3 rounds. Like Jose's amateur style often, clashed, didn't gel, sometimes with opponents. But with Buglioni, Jose won, I think, the first round. Buglioni came storming back with this huge work rate. It was actually a really good scrap. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's like for the British title over 12 rounds. Jose's probably looked like the better pro, even though Frank was a more accomplished amateur. So I think he's the favourite in this one. He's got power and skills. Frank Buglioni is strong, but he needs to sharpen up his defence. But what if he can outwork him like he did in the amateurs? I think it's a really good fight.
Yafai challenging for a world title against 2-time world champion Conception. How do you see Yafai's chances of being successful?
I think it's a tough fight. Conception is a very able champion, but I think it's a great fight because I think Yafai is a huge talent. He's technically very, very good. He's in one of the lighter divisions, but he's got real power. And he's got experience in I know he's new and been coming up. He's had sort of 20 fights now. A couple of them have been harder than expected. And I think that's given him enough seasoning. And he was on the amateur circuit for a long time, so he's done an Olympic Games, he's been to World Championships all across the world. So I think it's a very hard fight, but I actually have a lot faith in Yafai, and I hope this launches Yafai as a world champion, as one of the stars of British boxing.
Have you always been a fan of women's boxing in the amateurs? I know you cover a lot of amateur boxing. What are your personal thoughts on women's fighting?
Well, I've ever since I've been covering amateur boxing, I've been covering women's bouts, and I don't see it as any different to men's boxing. And in amateur boxing, the big stars of the sport are people like Katie Taylor and Nicola Adams and now Carissa Shields. In amateur boxing it's a bit different because it's 4 2-minute rounds, so you get slightly different type of contest, kind of more skillful 3-minute rounds, sort of endurance and strength comes into it a bit more. But then the skills the top female amateurs have are superb. Katie Taylor is actually a brilliant boxer. She can counter-punch, box off the back foot. She's also hits hard for her weight and can be aggressive when she chooses to be. So I'm interested to see, because I haven't followed professional women's boxing, because I'm not really aware of who's good. All the best boxers seem to have been in the Olympics and in the amateurs. now is not only is Katie Taylor turning pro, Clarissa Shields is, so maybe that's going to start a wave and actually build up professional women's boxing.
All right, well listen, on that note, thank you very much for talking to iFall TV, and I'll catch you again real soon.